New Life for Haiti's mission is to find ways to make life better for the impoverished people of southern Haiti. There are several villages along the Grand Anse River and dozens more in the mountains across the river. These families live on very little. There are few jobs. Many of the children eat just once a day, and most cannot attend school. To give you a glimpse into their lives, just 5 weeks ago we entered the world of a 13-year-old girl named Marlene. She's a sweet child with an infectious smile that lives with her 2 brothers, Mom and Dad, in Canton, one of the many small mountain villages across the river.
Est-ce qu'on aime l'école?
Oui,
Qui matière ou pire aimé et de aller à l'école?
mathématiques,
Mathématiques
Oui.
seulement?
français,
Français. Est-ce que vous pouvez parler petit français pour nous? Hein? Si me dis comment tu t'appelles, comment vous répondre?
je m'appelle Darius Merlin.
Ok. Est-ce que après finir l'école, qui sont t'as aimé apprendre?
Et un docteur.
Comment? Parlez-vous?
Docteur,
Docteur?
oui,
Vous avez venir un docteur?
oui.
Pour qui sont t'as aimé venir un docteur? Hmm? Pour aider les gens?
Pour aider toute famille, maman.
Madame moi, dis-moi, nous besoin sponsor Merlin
Oui,
personnellement.
oui,
So nous t'ai fait une décision pour faire ça.
oui,
So Kunia, après jeudi,
oui,
moi et madame moi,
oui,
c'est sponsor
oui,
pour eux.
oui,
Vous content avec ça?
oui,
Vous t'entendez ça, maman? OK. So, et madame moi t'ai écrit une lettre et t'ai traduit ça en créole. So, uka, Lisa.
Dear Marlene, I can't believe that summer is already over. I hope that you enjoyed your time off and are excited to start the new school year. I will be praying for you that you will do well and study hard. I hope that I will see you soon, maybe in January or February. Until then, love God and keep smiling your beautiful smile. Love, Miss Linda.
Madame Pastor Fran.
Madame Pasteur Franck, merci en pile.
Pas de quoi.
Obtaining water is a huge task for most families. No homes in rural towns have running water, so it's typically the task of the children to run the errand of fetching water. Marlene walks nearly an hour down to the river and carries 25 pounds of water back up to her home for cooking and drinking 2 to 3 times a day.
Less than half the people in Haiti have access to safe water. There are 6,000 deaths every day from waterborne illnesses: diphtheria, hepatitis, chronic diarrhea. Most of those are children. In the communities that we work in, many of the rural communities, they have no access to safe water. So we've already been up into communities like Pleak and have talked to people who have family members that have passed away, and that's the conditions that they're living in. Right now, kids are used to walking 2, 3, 4 miles to get water every day, 3 times a day. We've said for many years, even though our emphasis has been in other areas, that we need to start doing something to bring safe water to the communities that we work in. Right now, we're working on getting approval from the local district to cap a spring up in Pleak that's been contaminated particularly during the rainy season, when fecal matter from human waste and from livestock filters into the water system, and it's the same stream that people are bathing in, they're washing their dishes in it, they're cleaning their clothes in it, and they're accessing it for drinking water. If we could cap it and put a spigot on it, then they have access to some clean water.
Qui qualité, docteur, vous avez, like, par exemple, qui qualité problème vous voulez aider avec?
Tête fait mal. Tête fait mal.
Oh,
La
people have a
fièvre.
bad headache, or
Tête fait mal. Tête fait mal. La fièvre.
yeah, if people have a bad headache or a fever, she wants to be able to help them, because here, that might sound simple to people, but here, a bad headache or a fever can be a serious illness that somebody dies from. So they associate that with somebody often becoming really ill. So, what's that?
Je voulais piquer moun.
Oh, Pikimoon. Oh, vous voulez Pikimoon?
Oui.
She wants to give people shots. M'pa reme le yo Pikimoon. Oh, ow! Li ba moi douleur. Si vous venez au docteur et vous voulez piquer moi pourrais dire non, pas fait ça. Well, souhaite que venez au docteur. Ça c'est une grosse vision pour vivre. Et vous besoin travailler en pile dans l'école
Oui.
pour faire ça.
Oui.
Yeah. Ben, ça c'est une grosse vision. Haiti besoin plus docteurs.
Oui.
And Haiti besoin bon docteur. Yeah. So peut-être ou ka venir un docteur ou ka aide mon Haiti en pile. Parce que par exemple, je connais dans zone ça c'est souvent difficile pour mon joindre traitement pour quelques problèmes. And so peut-être ou ka aide mon qui côté les difficile. So
Comment c'est le docteur? No. I asked her if I can start to call her doctor.
Dr. Merlin. Dr. Merlin.
Dr. Merlin.
Albert la maman. Étranger.
Most Haitian families eat one meal per day. Starchy foods are common because they're inexpensive. Protein and vegetables are less common, and as a result, many people suffer from malnutrition, even though they consume enough calories. Malnutrition can impair the immune system, leaving children more vulnerable to diseases such as diarrhea, measles, and tuberculosis.
The feeding program was something that we've been talking about for a couple of years. I've been going to Haiti for 5 years, doing sponsorship photos for the child sponsorship program. And every time when I've been, the kids are so excited to see us. They're so excited about the pieces of candy that we bring that it really just was so difficult last year when we went, and once we found out why this little girl was crying, that it was because she was hungry. And, you know, anybody who has kids at home realizes that it's just the basic things that you don't even think about, that, you know, we're giving them candy and she wants food. And that really was the reason we went back and said we've really got to get the child feeding program moving faster. That, you know, there are kids that are showing up every day hungry, and they can't possibly learn and focus on school when all they're thinking about is something to eat. We feed about 935 kids total, so that's all the schools, because we feed all the children that are in the school, not just the children that are part of the sponsorship program. And it costs about a little less than 50 cents a serving for each child. So really an amazingly tiny amount when you think about the benefit that the children are getting from it.
Marlene, like many kids that live in rural areas, have to walk to school. Just to give you an idea of this daily ritual, we compressed her 1-hour hike into 45 seconds.
It's hard to say exactly how many children here are going to school, what percentage. Some people say 20% or 25%, but the reality is that when you walk through these villages during a school day, you see lots of children everywhere who are not in school. You know, it's so important for us to educate children here because many studies around the world in the last decade have shown that the best way to lift a culture out of poverty is to provide basic education for the people, especially the children of that culture. In the villages where we have built schools, the biggest thing that is different is that there are more children attending the school. When we first came to the village of Marfranc, there were maybe 150 children in the school, and today there are over 400. So every place that we build a school and there's a new facility and there's a program for education, more and more children will be educated. You know, people ask that question, how many schools do we need to build over the years ahead? And I don't know that any of us really knows the answer to that, because the truth is that as you go from village to village and you cross one mountain after another in this part of Haiti, there are all these places, all these villages where there isn't a school, or there's a school that's just barely operating and is kind of substandard. And so, you know, when I think about the years ahead, I think we may need to build dozens of schools. And, you know, that obviously is a very large job. And those schools also need to be made sustainable so they can go on. And really the way that happens is through our child sponsorship program. Because when people sponsor a child, then the money that comes in through that sponsorship program not only provides clothing and uniforms and shoes and vitamins and books and food for those children, but it also, some of that money helps to actually sustain the school, the expenses of the school, and then that school can operate all year long. You know, we came to these parts of Haiti just a few years ago, and we discovered these remote villages in the mountains and these villages in the valley. And we began to do some really good things. We began to build schools for the children, and we began to give children vitamins, and we've begun to do clinics and to feed children. But when we think about children like Merlene and their families and their communities, there is so much to do. And we find ourselves wondering, will we be able to build enough schools so that more than 20% of these children can actually become literate and get an education? Will we be able to provide the kind of medical treatment that they need? Will we be able to really cap those springs, all those springs in the mountains, so that people in these villages don't die anymore from contaminated water? There are so many needs that these children and these families and these communities have, and it all really hangs together. I mean, what good does it do for us to build a school, but then have the parent of a child die because they drank contaminated water, or to try to give children an education, but they come to school hungry? And so when we look at these children and their families and the places they live, I find myself wondering, how will these things happen? All of these things. Will we be able to do these things that these children and these families, these communities so desperately need?